Climate scientist calls for World War-type mobilization to combat climate change.
Here's a summary of the article.
Climate scientist is calling for a World War-type mobilization to address climate change. We do need a World War-type mobilization, and that means putting in place incentives to move our economy as quickly as we can away from fossil fuels to renewable energy. Mann, a scientist at Pennsylvania State University who is known for taking on climate skeptics, told Hill TV in an interview that aired Wednesday. Mann also argued that Trump is committed to denying climate change and has pushed to prevent the government from taking the issue into account when making policy decisions. The Department of Agriculture reportedly opted against publicizing dozens of peer-reviewed studies on climate change while Trump has been in office. Politico reported last week that the studies all point to the potential effects of climate change on everything from allergies to crops. During his interview, Mann voiced support for a number of Democrats seeking to take on Trump in 2020, arguing that any of the Democratic hopefuls would prove to be a better alternative on the issue of climate action than the current administration. Mann's comments come amid calls for a standalone climate debate for Democratic primary candidates.
This post received a score of 22,307, with an upvote ratio of 89%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
My grandmother, who lived through World War II, has been saying that for 20 years. She said back then every single American contributed something to the war effort, whether it was rationing, recycling, paying much higher taxes, buying war bonds, or doing something directly like working in a factory. She said when the war was over, every single person felt like they had participated in some way, and it made them proud, like their lives meant something, even though they weren't directly fighting.
Humanity is in a period exactly like 1938–9, he explains, when we all knew something terrible was going to happen, but didn't know what to do about it. But once the Second World War was underway, everyone got excited, they loved the things they could do, it was one long holiday, so when I think of the impending crisis now, I think in those terms. A sense of purpose, that's what people want. James Lovelock, enjoy life while you can. In 20 years global warming will hit the fan. March 2008.
I sure as fuck would love a sense of purpose. But it took a surprise attack that killed over 2,000 Americans to motivate us then, and I don't know what it'll take to inspire a similar unified will to slow climate change.
A megastorm or a series of massive hurricanes from Texas to Florida might do it. The issue here is the profit makers control the narrative. So it will just be a freak accident.
Houston area has had at least 3 500-year floods in 3 years. People I work with blame government regulation. BC. The poor little developing corporations have their hands tied about water flow and are no longer allowed to build in floodplains. Trying to turn the narrative to climate change literally gets you compared to a flat earther or another vaxxer. BC. The science just isn't there. I seriously want to move downcast face with sweat.
The science just isn't there. I'd like a climatologist to have a word or two with them. Edit, I originally wrote the science isn't just there instead of the science just isn't there. I fixed it.
A climatologist to have a fist or two with them might be better.
A climatologist to get drunk with would be best. Seriously, imagine how interesting a drunk conversation with a climatologist would be. You'd be learning all about lightning and shit and having a damn good time. Where do I meet me a climatologist?
Climate scientist Michael Mann is calling for a World War-type mobilization to address climate change. We do need a World War-type mobilization, and that means putting in place incentives to move our economy as quickly as we can away from fossil fuels to renewable energy. Mann, a scientist at Pennsylvania State University who is known for taking on climate skeptics, told Hill TV in an interview that aired Wednesday. Now how we do that, there's a legitimate policy debate to be had about how we do that, but there isn't a legitimate debate to be had anymore about the need to do that, he added.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.